Hey guys, found the time to get another sort of analysis out. This one is, well, the last two have been more focused towards how you spam on, small maps, and usually the game ends by the Tech 2 stage. So this game we'll be looking at is another 1v1 that I played in recently on Twin Rivers, same map that Milligan played on recently. This game will be a better example of how you can take things or handle land spam in the later game. So I'm just going to speed things up at the start. The starting builds in this case aren't really too special, it's just your normal first land, second air factory by both players. Of course, as I explained last time, Twin Rivers, you want to try and get that Hydra quickly, expand quickly, try to get the rock reclaim as much as you can. Both players do that pretty well in this game. Expand and try to take side islands as well for those extra 4 mexes and extra rock reclaim. Both players also tend to do that pretty well in this game. The start here is not really too important. I'm more interested in explaining or analysing the late game, but since we have to go through anyway, I'll just sort of commentate more than anything else. We've got like 2 labs going out to harass for Cuddles. Myself going scout lab combination. I think I make 2 sets of those after that engineer comes out. Yep, so another scout and lab will come out. So this group will go down this way to raid. This group will either come here to stop an enemy raid or try to go down and catch like these engineers in the back here that are expanding. So you can see, goes to the back, gets the mexes, gets a factory up quickly, tries to get the Hydra quickly. I'll do the same once I get engineer expanding. This lab will get through, unfortunately. However, I already have a tank out. However, this is the weakness of no radar early on as well. Not building scouts, I have no idea where this lab is gone until I notice it attacking other stuff. Early bomber, I believe Cuddles does it too, so this early bomber from both players, pretty simple. Both players, raid down the sides and stuff. I deny this base, he denies the back base. Sends out a scout to see what's going on. Bomb a couple engineers there. Both commanders coming forward. Normally the blue commander would come on this side and the red commander would come on this side. But in our game we just both went forward on the same lane. So when you expand across, build some factories on the other side, so that way you can get spam coming down this way and spam coming down both lanes at the same time. Second air factory, pause it if you're power stalling. My P-gens get hit a little by the bomber. So this lab at the back still denied me the back there, so I've let that through. I have to fix that. But I've also gotten through in the back here, so I'll be able to kill this Mex and this engineer. So I've denied him his back, he's denied me my back. Although he'll send tanks to clean up mine, but his has also gotten away. I think this lab gets reclaimed by the engineer. So, things like this help if you're paying attention. Bam, there goes the lab. Not much to talk about. It's like the 6-minute mark in this case, and I go for my first mass extractor upgrade. I do this because I need to worry more about spamming than anything else. Expansion and spamming comes first. Since both players harassed well, you'll have to upgrade mexes at a later stage, otherwise you'll fall behind on spam on your opponent. So some early aggression, early spam from both players, pretty normal. This is what you'd expect from spam on Twin Rivers, I guess, in a 1v1, when versing like decent people. Early radar by me, very useful. It helps you sort of gauge what opponents you have in the area, so you know that I need to put more units on this side. I can sort of not worry too much about this side because my commander's here for now. MrCuddles getting some bombers out and some scouts more for the intel here. He'll probably get a radar up probably near the middle of the mountain very soon. So 8.5 minutes in, I think both players have a Tech 2 mechs upgraded. Yep, both players have a Tech 2 mechs upgraded, and both players are upgrading other mechs to Tech 2 around the same speed. Spam looking a little in favour of blue at the moment, so Cuddles sort of has the advantage. He chooses to wall off this side so that way he can focus more of his spam down this way, while my spam is split between 2 sides. 9-minute mark. 9 minutes 40, I have my Tech 2 land factory HQ. I decided to build it over here instead of in my base because I know my opponent's probably going to raid me. My opponent is also upgrading Tech 2 land. He's also got engineers assisting, so he'll probably catch up pretty fast. So this is what I was talking about. You can choose to do a line of factories like this to spam. It does work, although it's slightly more efficient to around the adjacency. So of course, land spam fighting, still at the Tech 1 stage. Tech 2 is about to start rolling out, as you can see, so both players will have Tech 2 land rolling out. Cuddles chooses to go for Tech 2 power first, with Tech 2 engineers. Try a run by here, always try to be aggressive as possible. Done a drop on the side here, factory radar, get the stuff. This raid gets into the back of my base, it's going to do some decent damage. I lose that Tech 2 mix, but I'm able to clear these out once I send tanks back. Oh, that is a pretty serious mistake. I should have killed these tanks when I noticed I lost those 2 mixes. So now this trying to harass these forward mixes a bit, get the mix. That's sort of a little win for me. I don't lose too many units there, which is alright. So the Tech 2 is starting to enter now, so you'll see a whole bunch of pillars in there. And it's UEF mirror match here, so there's no disadvantage for either player in terms of the race they're playing. So Tech 2, Tech 1, Tech 3, all stages of the game will be pretty balanced. So by walling off the side here, he can group up his main army as a single spam. I've chosen to sort of split down both sides so I can try to flexibly harass. Drop on the top, he drops 2 Tech 2 engineers. Cuddles knows that I've already taken the bottom, so he needs to be able to secure this island. And I also make the mistake of only dropping 1 engineer. So he's got a lot more build power. I try to send a bomber to help harass. I think it goes for the PD though or something. It kills him right up there. But the AA comes up and kills the bomber. So you get pushed back a bit here. His T1 spam's strong. But as you can see, my army is going to pressure here as well. So it's like a very balanced and even split, as you can see. You know, my army's coming down here. His army's pressuring me back here. I try to drop more engineers and some tanks to help harass. I don't think it goes too well up the top there. Drop the speed of it because we're reaching the stage I want. So now we're at the stage where it's Tech 1 land spam plus a mix of Tech 2 tanks inside. So if we look at the factories, I build more factories. I've also upgraded some factories to the Tech 2 stage. So while still maintaining Tech 1 land spam, I'm also getting factories to Tech 2 to get Tech 2 out. Doing the same on this side, this factory is also upgrading to Tech 2. Also maintain mass extractor upgrades. 15-minute mark, I have 4, almost 5 mass extractors at Tech 2. My opponent is the same, 4 mass extractors at Tech 2, he just isn't upgrading one at the moment. So from that main army fight in the middle, not too much gets through. And on my side as well, nothing much. I scratch his comm a little bit, but as you can see, it's all dead here. So we've given each other both a decent amount of reclaim to get, so this is important. So when a game goes on like this with a spam, you need engineers out to get all this reclaim quickly. My engineer eventually, my commander and some engineers eventually come. So as you can see, things are pretty balanced in the spam, and you'll notice now more factories will start upgrading Tech 2s. Now there's 3 Tech 2 factories, or there's 2 now actually, and I've started my Tech 3 land upgrades, so I'm now at 15%. So as you can see, it's a nice mix. You'll have a mix of Tech 1, you'll have a mix of like Tech 2 pillars starting to come out, or whatever faction you're playing, you'll have a mix of the Tech 2 tanks. And you'll notice my opponent does the same. He has a bunch of pillars, but he still has a bunch of Tech 1 as well. And what sort of happens is you slowly begin to phase out Tech 1. So as you can see, his Tech 1 factories are slowly starting to stop, and he'll start upgrading his more primary factories to Tech 2. So you'll notice the fight now, you'll start seeing a larger amount of Tech 2 units, lesser amount of Tech 1, and then eventually you're going to see Tech 3 come out. So at this point there's a pretty solid fortification up here, so I'm probably going to lose the top. But on the bottom I have units patrolling, so I should be okay. Another thing is always try to be creative with your attacks. That's a drop with 6 Lobos, 6 mobile artilleries. They're you know, queued to drop down the back, try to harass as much as possible. You know, my opponent though is sort of prepared, he has tanks ready. So as you can see, it's sort of like equal spam on both sides. Tech 2 more becoming the majority of units. Here there's still a decent amount of Tech 1 actually. But like over here you'll see there's like a whole bunch of pillars, and the Tech 1 tanks become less. Upgrade to Tech 3 still going down. You'll notice now there's 1, 2, 3, 4 factories at Tech 2, and only 1 factory here producing Tech 1. On this side here we have 1 factory producing Tech 2, and still a couple producing Tech 1 in my engineer factory. Bombers still come out, even at this stage of the game. Tech 1 bombers still come out, they're still useful at harassing. And as you can see from my opponent as well, he's done the same. He's gone for the more engineer assist approach, so he puts all his engineers on his factories, so that way the others are producing Tech 1, but his 2 main productions are like these pillars that are coming out from highly supported factories. That's like the equivalent of pretty much having multiple factories like this. So although I have 4, his 2 are probably producing the same kill as I am. Try a run by again. Of course, at this stage we're both pretty well balanced. So a lot of units are going to die. So there's a lot of mass here now. There's a lot of dead units here. A lot. So reclaiming is important to get down here. I'm a bit limited on engineers at this point. I eventually start sending a lot of engineers down to get a reclaim. So now, as you can see, Tech 3 land factory upgrade up. So now that's going to start producing Percies. Queue up more factories to get to Tech 2 to spam. And eventually it's just going to come a point where I'm not going to be building Tech 1 land anymore. Pretty much at this point I should stop, because I have Tech 3, I have Tech 2 spam. Tech 1 spam at this point is pretty much useless. So although my opponent's army looks pretty huge, it's also because mine is split into 2 groups as well. So if you look at this now, you'll notice it's pretty much all Tech 2 units. It's all Tech 2 except for like a couple strikers and mobile artillery. So that's how the transition works from Tech 1 to Tech 2 spam. You keep producing Tech 1 and you slowly get more of your Tech 1 factories to Tech 2, and then they'll produce all your Tech 2 units for you. Then eventually you're going to transition to Tech 3, so your HQ will start your Percies first, and then as you'll notice, you'll start upgrading more Tech 1 factories to Tech 2, more of your Tech 2 factories when your economy allows it to, can go to Tech 3. So right now reclaim is floating near the mass I need to stay at 100%ish, except when the engineers don't reclaim I begin to drop. So once again the battlefields look even. See here my opponent takes a higher priority on reclaim. This is pretty bad. I should have gotten engineers down, and I've still got a lot of mass here that I've left behind. Comms going on upgrade, getting engineering. Still haven't upgraded these factories yet. I think I forget about these factories for a while, but I am going to Tech 2 air so I can get some fighter bombers out to harass my opponent. While my opponent is already at Tech 2 air, so he's getting fighter bombers ready to harass me. So as he's built a wall on this side, he's chosen to build like a little fortification here to sort of hold this side so he can focus more of his units on this side. Does a little drop here of 2 Tech 2 tanks, but all the Tech 1 is more than enough to deal with that. As you can see, blue takes the top island. Now the key here is, if you're going to keep pushing at your opponent with a lot of spam, you're going to leave a lot of dead units, so you got to keep pressuring as well. Make sure you try to kill as many of their engineers. Like, if they got to cross half the map, you should really be killing them. So I start mixing in MMLs as well when the Percies come to provide that long range support, pick off the engineers. Another good tactic of splitting my army is that he'll have to wheel more units this way. Yeah, so he's gone Tech 3 land as well. You'll have to wheel more units this way, which means I can either choose to send this down this way or redirect it around as reinforcements. This is a pretty bad error by me. There's a whole lot of pillars here that should have been sent further up, but I've set a bad rally point, so they're just coming out of the factory. So here, as you can see, Tech 2, Tech 2, Tech 2, Tech 2, Tech 2, and Tech 3. No more Tech 1 producing. Over here, as I said, I've pretty much forgotten about these two. Janus is coming out. So here, pressure forward a bit, try to kill as many engineers. You'll notice now there's only 1 engineer on reclaim. Little air battle goes on as his fighter bombers harass. Battle goes in, I'll just slow this down. So, as you can see now, this battle is mostly Tech 2. There is very little Tech 1 on both sides of the battle. Very little Tech 1. It's mostly pillars, a couple Percies from both players, as they're slowly transitioning to Tech 3 land. And of course, this is where the flexibility comes in. I can bring in reinforcements, and it means that I can push my opponent off, and I can be more aggressive. So there's a lot of reclaim getting left here now, because there's a lot of my dead units, a lot of enemy dead units. So I have to get, engineers up. I have to get engineers to really get down here and reclaim. Upgrade my radar to Tech 2 to get more vision. So this hopefully gives you a rough idea of how the transition works from Tech 1 to Tech 2 to Tech 3 spam. So you'll still have a huge army of Tech 2, some small amount of Tech 1, and a couple Tech 3 mixed in. My opponent, this is the advantage of assisting a Tech 3 factory. You can get Percies out a lot faster. So as I push, as you notice, my reinforcements are very limited. They have to walk a long way, especially Percies since they're very slow. His can roll off the belt and pretty much start blapping my units off the map. So he's also using fighter bombers to harass heavily, so I get my interceptors in to try to deal with these. A lot of them are out of fuel though, which is problematic. Another key thing is you always want to try and keep ahead of your opponent. Like, as you may have noticed, I went to Tech 2 slightly earlier than my opponent, and I have also gone to Tech 3 slightly earlier than my opponent. Although he's got more engineers assisting, so he probably has more Perseus than me right now. And there's a lot of reclaims been left on this doorstep here. So this is dangerous. I can't leave this reclaim on this doorstep, because we've both pretty much thrown our armies here and they've all died here. So I have to bring like a secondary army up to probably around here somewhere so I can cover the reclaim to make sure my opponent can't get them, and then bring up engineers to get the reclaim as well. So it's a 26-minute mark. If we look at reclaim figures, I'm sitting at 15,000 and rising and 35,000 power. My opponent is sitting on 24,000 mass. So you see, as my opponent, he has a huge amount more reclaim than me because I've been more aggressive this game and I've left a lot of mass in his doorstep. I've also taken less priority to reclaiming, which is a bad thing. You always want to have a high priority for reclaiming. Here my opponent trying something sneaky, trying to come around the side, maybe to snipe a Tech 2 mechs or Tech 2 power or a HQ. So once again, trying to be assertive, I decide to go for a Tech 4 first before my opponent, so I begin construction on a Fat Boy. Meanwhile, I use flapjacks or MMLs to try and hold off my opponent, kill their engineers. So you'll notice I'll have engineers in the base here that can reclaim all this. That's me, 2 T2 fighter bombers sniping the T2 P-Gen there. I think they'll get another run and kill that second P-Gen as well, most likely. So here he tries to push me back so he can get access to this reclaim. Although he realized that I still have a decently large army slowly building up, so he will have to pull back eventually. There goes the second Tech 2 P-Gen. I think I might be able to get the radar as well. A lot of NTs out of fuel here. This is a big problem I have in this game. So as you notice, there's a decent upgrade from both mexes going up on each side. I'm sitting on 11 Tech 2 mexes, 18 Tech 1. My opponent is sitting on a lot less actually. He's only sitting on 5 or 6 Tech 2 mexes and 17 Tech 1. That's because he has taken a bit of damage across the place. I've been sniping things with fighter bombers, and I sort of have Tech 1 air at this point. So as you may have noticed that although we've reached a Tech 3 land stage, the air is still Tech 1 and Tech 2. On spam maps, you probably won't have time to be able to get Tech 3 everything at the same time. So if it's a land spam map, focus more on on the land rather than on the air. Although if you notice your opponent has gone to Tech 3 air, you probably do need to either build Tech 3 mobile AA and shields to like avoid a strap bomber snipe, or you need to get to Tech 3 air yourself. So a lot of reclaim here. I try to bring tanks forward so I can deny this and try and get my own engineers to come forward as well and pick up all the reclaim along the way. So as you notice, that whole area is cleaned out now. Still some death here from his push, and there's a lot of death here as well from earlier. So he's got a bunch of engineers on reclaim. So now he's got 3 Tech 3 factories producing units. He lost all the rest during my attack. Meanwhile, on my side, I only have 1, but I'm still spamming a lot of Tech 2. And I'm also building a Fat Boy. This is the main reason why I choose not to go for more Perseus, because I'm already throwing a lot of mass into this. I can't afford to put more into Tech 3 land. And over here, yep, I finally stopped spamming Tech 1. So it's now just a Tech 2 spam with a mix of Tech 3. At this point, it's starting to reach the purely Tech 3 spam game at the 29-minute mark here. Both players have Tech 3 land factories. My opponent has more than me, and he's also assisting, so he's getting Perseus out a lot faster. But I also have various factories making Tech 2 pillars, which are generally cheap, and flapjacks as well, mobile missile launchers, to get that long-range harass in. Because the pillars are massively, as you can see, they're getting one shot, and they're massively outranged by the vessels. So the mobile missile launchers help just to get the extra harass. It also means my opponent has to be careful. He can't let me too close to his base, or I'll be able to pick off a factory, a radar, P-Jet, and that kind of stuff. So I try to deny the reclaim. This is the main reclaim here. As you can see, there's a lot of dead Tech 2 tanks. So I can get my engineers up to reclaim all this. So I have to pressure my opponent back. My opponent's built a pretty solid defense on this side, so trying to harass through here isn't very viable anymore. But as you notice, this side's also been cleaned out of reclaim. There's here one factory still making Tech 1, just haven't noticed, and another factory making Tech 2, which is still okay. So Fat Boy's reaching its almost done stage. My opponent's now ecoing a lot better than me, 176 mass to 102. He also has 6k power to my 3k. It's because he's gone and upgraded all these back mixes to Tech 3. It probably would have been a wise idea for me to get, like, I got 3 transports here. 1 Percy can go in each transport. I probably should have picked up 3 Percys, flown around back here, dropped them since I still have air control at this point. And 3 Percys could probably get through this decently well, even though there's a Tech 3 land factory here. I could probably pick off the mixes if I focus them. So now I've got my engineers here, they're starting to get the reclaim, and I just have to keep my opponent back off it. His engineers are coming up to try and get it. It's pretty much the scramble to get this mass reclaim. So that's a nice transition, just a bit of harass at the top there with my bomber, picking off mexes, and as you can see a whole bunch of engineers. That bomber has 26 kills, 25 kills. So now I realise I'm sort of falling behind the Tech 3 spam and Tech 2 is not as useful. So I start upgrading another factory to Tech 3 so I can get more Percivals out. Because as you can see, my main force of fighting now is like mobile missile launchers to provide long range harass the opponent. And every now and again I have a couple of Percys. However, the reclaim on the front here, getting all this reclaim, is giving me the mass to finish the fat boy. Hopefully this gives you guys a good idea. My opponent's also built TMD everywhere. That's why I don't build TMLs. If you're wondering why I didn't do something like tac snipe mixes. A couple Tech 2 flak. I think my opponent goes Tech 3 air quite soon. Yep, he's at Tech 3 air, building scouts and stuff. I'm still sitting in Tech 2 air. Fat boy's almost done though. This will give me the advantage on the ground. So in this case I chose, instead of spamming Percivals and trying to outspam him while having to constantly move down the lane where I'm at a disadvantage when it comes to reinforcements, I chose to go for a fat boy so that way I can just keep pressing from far away and slowly creep closer. Since my opponent has a lot of Percivals and Percivals are slow, you can just go for fighter bomber, harass on them. I mean, I'm sure it's not much. I mean, their health is barely going down, but it makes life a lot easier for the my fat boy and my Tech 2 to try and handle it. Good old Janus, very accurate of course. I'm kidding entirely there. Janus, the most inaccurate Tech 2 fighter bomber. If you're going for a snipe, don't play UEF. If you're going for a Tech 2 fighter bomber snipe, as you can see, just generally miss. Flak here, ripping through my air. Fat boy now done, going to help me able to harass and push down. So this is the trade-off I made. I'm going to heavily spam Tech 2 with a bit of Tech 3 Percys, but get a fat boy instead. My opponent chose to heavily just spam Tech 3 land. So he's got three factories here, 2 of which being assisted quite heavily. There's Tech 3 engineers mixed in Tech 2 and Tech 1, just making Percivals. He's also got a Tech 3 air factory back here, now building strat bombers to counter the fat boy. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where if your opponent goes Tech 3 air, you need to make something to counter it. The fat boy is quite weak to Tech 3 air. The fat boy is quite weak in general. It's only good as a kiting unit. As you can see, I kite back with him quite a lot. And I use the Tech 2 tanks more as meat shields, because I still have engineers coming in at the reclaim. As you can see, a large amount of mobile missile launches as well, just to keep pressing harass fighter bombers to try and add as much extra damage as possible. I will eventually have to go Tech 3 air, as my opponent is making strat bombers. As you can see, my opponent, he knows he can't hold this position, he can't make Percys. The Percys can't get in range as long as I keep kiting. So his only hope is to try to use something like strat bombers to kill it. The strat bomber drops, it's going to take a decent chunk out of the shield, however there are interceptors. I know Tech 1 interceptors are pretty terrible, but the one thing about being slow is when a strat bomber turns, all your interceptors can catch up and shoot it. So although the first bomb will get off, the interceptors will be able to catch up and shoot the strat bomber once it turns. So of course keep microing with the fat boy, don't let it get too close, otherwise you'll have problems. My APM is lacking at the moment, interceptors aren't going for that strat bomber, he's probably going to get a second bomb off. So my opponent's now spamming, just trying to get strap bombs out as fast as possible to deal with the Fat Boy. And this is where the main difference in our play, try to get a little harass here, Tech 2 PD can sort of see me. This is where the slight difference in our strategies really occurred, because during the Tech 1 spam stage, we were pretty close. During the Tech 2, I'm going to put this up to +2. During the Tech 2 spam stage, things were still very close, and then the Tech 3 land stage is where we chose to do differently. My opponent chose to go for Percival spam and go Tech 3 air. I chose to go for a continual Tech 2 spam, a bit of Percival spam, as you can now see I have 4 factories here making Percivals. But primarily a Fat Boy. This is like a risk versus reward scenario. If this Fat Boy fails to destroy this base, or if this Fat Boy fails to win it for me, I lose a lot of mass, and I'm also left with a lot of Tech 2 units that cannot beat his army of Percivals. Which is very dangerous to the Fat Boy. Because the Fat Boy has to kite, it means it takes you longer to get through your opponent's base. But when you get through, you want to, focus the HQ first, kill the HQ, it means all these factories can no longer produce. Even the Tech 2 factory can no longer produce. Aim the HQ first, then aim for things like Tech 3 power. Opponent trying to build a Fat Boy as well. That's a decent counter to a Fat Boy that's missing its shield and is sitting on half health. I'm starting to go to Tech 3 air now, because I know that eventually I can't deal with these strap bombers, because Fat Boy is taking hits. Percy's charge, so kite back with the Fat Boy and mobile missile launchers. Your own Percy's and pillars can also kite backwards as well. Starting to mix in Tech 2 flak instead, because I know my interceptors are very slow. And my Fat Boy is getting quite low in health now. It's on half health and his shield is down. Using the Tech 2 spam is enough. The problem with Percy's are their fire rate is extremely slow, but they do huge overkill. So spamming Tech 2 is sort of a good way to soak up a lot of fire. Because I know a lot of pillars have died here, and a lot of idle engineers surprisingly not reclaiming. I don't know why. It's my attack move just not working again. But using Tech 2 land is a good way to beat shield against Percivals. Tech 1 land would be the best, since they're the cheapest to make. But if you want a unit that still has a decent amount of damage and like some extra merit besides being a beat shield, as UEF pillars make a pretty good option. So at this point, the Flapjacks can really come in useful and blow shit up. Meanwhile here, his commander will not be able to finish that Fat Boy. At this point, my opponent calls it GG. And that will probably be the end of the game. Yep, control case. So I hope that gave you a nice rough idea of how the transitioning works from Tech 1 land to Tech 2 land and then to Tech 3 land. I'm sorry I didn't go into much details about economy specifics in this case. I didn't worry too much about the mexes or the mass storage or how much power was needed by each person, or like radar placement. I didn't go into too much detail about that because I wanted to focus more on units, strategies you can use with units, choosing to go for a spam of MMLs instead of Mongeese, and choosing to go for a spam of Percy's over a Tech 4, and showing you the value of reclaim. At the end of that game, I'm sitting on 52,000 mass reclaim. That's enough to build almost 2 Fat Boys, or 2 satellites as UEF, or pretty much 2 GCs, 2 of any main Tech 4 unit. For Cybran, there's probably 3 or 4 Monkey Lords actually. My opponent there near the end, he's sort of slowed down on reclaim. He's on about 40,000 reclaim, still enough to make almost 2 Fat Boys as well. The only difference is his reclaim went into Percy's, mine went into a Fat Boy. Now, it's not all cases that a Fat Boy will beat a spam of Percy's. It's based on who the aggressor is, how much space you have to kite backwards. For example, had he been the one pressuring me for most of that game, and I built a Fat Boy, the Fat Boy would not have very far to run, because if the Fat Boy is here and Percy's are coming, and the Fat Boy has to run back, I'm going to lose the base. But because I'm on the attack, I can keep kiting backwards and forwards with the Fat Boy until I get through all the Percy's and all the defense. It's slow, but it does work. and in this case, you know, it worked very well for me. I chose to take a risk, and that risk paid off. So yeah, hopefully that gives you guys a good idea now of how to sort of handle things into the later game. Now that game ended at the 38-minute or 39-minute mark almost. Has another factory there going to Tech 3 or Tech 2 Land HQ actually, or Tech 2 Land actually. So yep, hope that gives you a rough idea of being able to move through the different tech stages while maintaining spam or choosing to take a more riskier option. I hope this highlights as well the importance of reclaim if I haven't already like specified that enough, because reclaim is, you know, the difference here. We fought over this reclaim quite a lot in the late game because that's the difference between me throwing together this fat boy and my opponent blowing up and not being able to finish his fat boy. Well, hope you guys found it useful. Thanks for watching.